Hi, and welcome back to the Drama Coach podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jules Martin, a LAMDA teacher who works closely with young performers and adults, supporting them through acting training, exams, and communication skills. In this episode, we're focusing on training, and specifically how LAMDA can support young performers, not just in their exams, but in building confidence, communication, and real acting skills that carry into auditions and the wider industry. As always, this is about building confidence, understanding, and realistic expectations, whether you're a young performer or a parent supporting one. So let's crack on. Jules, it's lovely to have you on.
My pleasure, absolute pleasure. If I can wax lyrical about LAMDA or performing, acting, public speaking, I'm a happy lady.
Wonderful. You're in the right place. You're in the right place to do that. I've really enjoyed your content online. It's clear that you know your stuff. I'm a LAMDA teacher as well, and I resonated with everything that you were saying. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the work that you do?
Well, I started out as an actor, and I still do a little bit of acting, but ultimately now I've started to run my own LAMDA business, and I teach predominantly online. And I absolutely love it. I really enjoy it. I really get a lot of pleasure from the exam results, from the progress that I see in my students. And I think it's amazing that LAMDA is open to everyone and anybody. I think it is a little bit of a myth that perhaps it's for very young children, when actually I've had head teachers come to me for help with public speaking. And I've had actors come to me who don't quite yet feel ready for drama school, but would like some form of training. So it is literally an open door for anybody.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, I've enjoyed the public speaking element as well, excuse me, and branched out to delivering that to adults in the corporate world, because you're right, it is for everyone. It's not necessarily just for the actors, but it does do wonders for the actors. So do you want to tell us what LAMDA actually is? Because we hear it a lot. What is it?
Well, I think most people consider LAMDA to be the drama school in London. And of course it is, but it is also an examination board. And anybody can join in that regard to take an exam. So you're working towards recognised qualifications, maybe even UCAS points in like a variety of different disciplines. So from acting to public speaking to Shakespeare to musical theatre, verse and prose, there's something for everybody, I think, with LAMDA. But for me, I do specialise in just a couple of disciplines that I feel comfortable in. So,
and we should probably drop in, because we do have people following who are completely new to acting, that it's the London Academy of Music and Drama. We don't tend to say that often, do we? We just say LAMDA. So that's where that comes from.
I also think people need to understand that I don't actually work for LAMDA in the drama school, because I do get that misconception a lot. We're freelancers, aren't we, as LAMDA teachers, much like those that teach audition technique and things like that. So we are all freelancers. So we are using the LAMDA examination board to take our students through that process, but we are not employed by LAMDA. I think that's important.
And there's so much on offer there, isn't there? Like you said, you specialise in certain areas, but there's... Well, my favourite is the acting. I like the public speaking. I love the musical theatre. I always tend to teach that alongside a music teacher, because again, like you say, with the acting background, for me, I like to do that alongside a teacher trained in music. But there are loads of others that schools offer, that teachers offer. There's devising, isn't there? A mime, a Shakespeare. I love teaching the Shakespeare. There's probably even more, but if anyone's interested, it's quite easy to go online and just have a look at the LAMDA specifications. They're all there, and there's probably something for everyone, I would imagine.
I agree, because not everyone wants to be an actor or wants to explore text and characterization. Some people want to just be better at speaking, being more confident, and using that as a means to career progression. I mean, I
Yes.
have a university student who I teach at the moment. He's a second year law student, taking public speaking because he knows that in his future he's going to be
Yes.
taking on that performer's role in the law courts. So yeah,
Yes,
something
what a
for
wonderful
everyone.
connection. Yeah,
Mm.
that's wonderful. I hadn't thought about that. It's really good.
Mm.
What do you see LAMDA giving young performers then beyond the exam? You've hinted at that there. Give us some other examples as to where it gets used.
So I think LAMDA offers soft skills. So a little bit of everything from confidence to communication, resilience, self-expression, stepping out of your comfort zone, being able to market yourself in a job interview or a university interview. Things that I don't really think the national curriculum can offer. So it's just something a little bit different from students, young people who might be a little bit shy, might feel that they just feel overwhelmed in that arena of speaking. I've even had students who don't like to read in school or don't like to put up their hand in class, and they will be the ones that the parents will really see a difference when they take LAMDA. So, and of course, if you are an actor or you want to be an actor, it's a great stepping stone. If you don't feel that you're quite ready for the demands of drama school and you don't want that imposter syndrome, then a LAMDA solo acting qualification could be a really super start to that journey. So, yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I just think that the confidence that comes from LAMDA can give students an advantage, even when they do find themselves at drama school.
And they can nab UCAS points, can't they, with the medal grades? Does that still
Yes.
exist? Yeah, so I know
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a little bit of a misconception again about the UCAS points, that you can perhaps take grade 6, 7, and 8 acting and take all of those UCAS points across, and of course you can't.
No,
unfortunately. But if you go across different syllabi, so if you went public speaking and acting, then you can take 2 sets of points across. So,
I think that's really worth flagging. Thank you for that.
Yes,
I've guided my students that way sometimes when they wanted the extra points. So, well, let's do a different discipline then, because you get to put your highest grade in those different disciplines forwards for your UCAS points. So that's a nice bonus as well. So you mentioned it helping confidence and communication, which I absolutely agree. How would you say the LAMDA sessions do that? What's in there that allows the confidence and the communication to get better, or what's in your teaching that helps that?
So in terms of acting, students are developing their craft in my sessions as a solo actor, because I don't teach the group, I teach solo. So they're exploring things like text, vocal skills, breath control, and all of those things build towards confidence, because you're learning all of that technique and you're doing it alone. So I think a lot of students go through maybe the stage school route, where you're with all of your peers and you're on a stage and you're all interacting together with wonderful lights and costumes and sets. But when you come to LAMDA, that's all stripped back. And it's just you alone and your monologue. So I think the confidence comes through that ability to story tell alone with no other actors to help you. And I will often have parents contact me and they'll say, my child's done this show and they've done this experience and this big production. And clearly they've got a lot of experience, but put them alone with a monologue. It is a very different beast, I think.
Exposing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, very exposing. And how well that then prepares the actor for what's to come in the industry in terms of self-tape and auditions and castings. I remember those days pre-self-tape when you all went into a room together and got called in one by one, and there would be the camera and the casting director might say, okay, you're this person in this scenario, there's the camera, off you go.
Off you go. Scary stuff.
You need a lot of confidence to do that. And you need to understand what works and what doesn't work. Yes. So I think LAMDA is a great opportunity to build all of those skills and techniques, and the confidence comes from that knowledge.
Definitely. So let's talk more about the links to the industry then, because most of our listeners are generally just going into the industry, or the parents of the children that are just launching themselves into the scary world of the acting industry, or the exciting world of the acting industry. How do these skills, we talk a lot about self-tapes, as you said, it's the way, and most, especially, I know the children tend to get second rounds in person, but almost all of their first rounds are self-tapes. How do these skills that we're learning in LAMDA translate into auditions in self-tapes?
I think you're building understanding, you're building truth, you're building that capacity to storytell alone with nobody else. You understand the pitfalls, the things that work and don't work. Not looking lost in that frame alone, but being able to own that space and deliver that performance with confidence. I think just understanding things like sight lines and character placement, understanding what works and doesn't work when you are performing alone with maybe nobody, or somebody calling out some lines here and there. Yeah, it's we all needed to master the self-tape. And I think because I was acting long before the self-tape was introduced, so I feel like I'm probably very old in that respect. But I do think that the more you learn and the more you absorb and the more you understand, the confidence will grow, and the casting director will see your potential. Absolutely. See your commitment to your craft. And I do think that LAMDA does demonstrate a commitment to your craft. I did pick up a while ago on a TikTok that somebody did where they said, LAMDA's a waste of time. Nobody needs to do it. It's not going to get you a job. It's not going to get you into drama school. And I had to do a recording.
I bet you did.
Yes, I had to. I didn't name anybody. I didn't tag anybody. But what I did was I laid out over, I think, 2 different videos, all the things that I think demonstrates how serious you are as an actor. If you have gone through this process, that you have put yourself in front of a LAMDA examiner who is an industry professional, who's also a qualified teacher, someone who's been through that process themselves, and you're going to be in front of them performing and ultimately being assessed.
And with those
for a qualification.
It's probably good for us to point out that can be online. I've got some international students that do their examination online, so also good for self-tapes, I suppose. But it can be, and I do love the ones that are in person. There are centres all over the country, possibly all over the world, the centres that you can go to. So if your school's putting it on and you've got a LAMDA teacher that comes into school, you'll more than likely be doing it in your school setting, which can be nice and comfortable for a student. But if you're doing it via your LAMDA teacher that's perhaps not attached to school, you can pick a centre, your parents can take you there and you can do your exam there, which I think is good, because if you are going into the industry, you're not always going to be in the comfort of your own home or your own school. I think that's just a little thing to get used to, or if you're doing competitions as well, what is this space going to be like when I turn up to deliver my monologue, and to be prepared for everything. So I think maybe even getting a mixture of how you get examined for LAMDA could be really, really good for students.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I have students who I teach online who absolutely want the in-person experience of an exam. They want to go to LAMDA Public Centre or head office in London, and they want to be in an unfamiliar room with acoustics that might be different to what they're used to test out the projection, the vocal skills that we've been learning. And then I have other students who are anxious and don't want that in-person experience, and they feel like they want the comfort of their own space in front of the camera. But just the fact that you've got that variety, that's great, isn't it? Something for everyone again.
Yeah.
And we are all different. We have all got different learning styles. And I have seen an increase in anxiety since COVID. I do think that there has been an impact of that.
Me too,
and so,
sadly.
Yeah, we don't need to exclude those students from the exam experience and gaining qualifications and enjoying their craft. They can do it in the comfort of their own home. That's great.
Yes. So you mentioned the sort of misconception about it being for primary school. And I know a lot of particularly prep schools offer the LAMDA exam. But what makes good acting, so if they're going for these sort of solo acting exams, what makes good acting at the sort of 11 to 18-year-olds? What are we looking for? What is good?
I think depth and understanding, being able to analyze a character, not just a standalone monologue, but being able to understand where and how that character fits in the whole story. So important.
I talk about that a lot, yes.
Do you? Yeah. I think it just shapes your whole interpretation of that character. And that monologue is one moment in that character's journey. And how obviously you don't necessarily need to know what comes after, but you should know what came before.
Absolutely.
So I think at this level, improvisation is a great way to build character development. And my students really enjoy that. And because I'm an actor, I can join in and we can improvise together.
Oh, I love
so that's great. And I think building the vocal and the physical confidence, I think as well, being able to understand that a monologue, I hate it when people start a monologue. How do I best explain this? Starting a monologue as if it's the start of a monologue, but not a moment in time where something's just happened before.
I always call that stage business. I like a little bit of stage business, but of course now it might be screen business. Yeah. What has happened? Where are you coming from? What's going on right now? I hate that sort of play and stop of a monologue. You're so right. Yes, there may be rise and fall in it, but there's rise and fall within the entire piece. Yes. And that leads me nicely on to the next question, which, where do you think students go wrong or overthink? Where are the pitfalls?
Where do they go wrong? I think, particularly in an exam situation, I think they go into often recital mode because of nerves, perhaps, or that sense of the environment, wanting to do well instead of thinking and being where they are in that moment. I think a lot of students think too much about the examiner, or in a casting situation, too much about those that are watching them. So focus and concentration is a really big thing. Understanding thought processes seems to come up a lot, where students need to see where thinking changes. Because instead of reciting a monologue and learning your lines and saying those lines, what is your character thinking at any given moment, which is why they're saying what they're saying. So I think often at this level that can be lost.
Yes.
And I've got to get through the monologue. I've got to get through the lines. But actually, I would rather pull every single part of that monologue and break it down. Where does your character think differently or feel differently? What's changed? So, yeah, I think often reading a monologue rather than bringing that truth to sense of surroundings as well.
Hi, it's me, present day Lisa, with a really quick cutaway. As I was listening back to this episode, I noticed how much we talk about monologues, and that makes absolute sense. Monologues are such an important part of any actor's toolkit, whether you're preparing for a drama exam, an audition, drama school, or just wanting to get better at working with text. And that's exactly why I created my video course on how to create and perform a theatrical monologue. It takes you through how to choose a piece, understand the character, make clear acting choices, work with the text, and shape a performance that feels truthful rather than forced. So if monologues are something you or your child are working on, you can find the course now at thedramacoach.co.uk/courses. Right, back to the episode.
I tend to run taster classes, and I will provide a monologue and ask the student to bring some level of performance for the taster class. And I would say 9 times out of 10, they stand in front of the camera and read the monologue. So that sense of surroundings for me is really important. Where are you and who are you with and what's happening and why are you feeling like that? So I think
quite
LAMDA
ironic. The kids are the ones with the good imaginations. It's
yes.
so sad that they're not bringing them without a
yes.
tutor's help.
Yeah. But possibly, I'm going to sound really old now, possibly technology might have interrupted that process. Because
I think that's a whole nother episode there. Yeah.
But that ability to play and imagine and lose yourself, which, you know, I certainly did as a child, the role playing that we all do as young children, perhaps now that's not so practiced. I don't know. Maybe it's more about iPads.
Unless you're an actor, of course.
Yeah.
But no, perhaps not. Growing up too quickly. Yeah.
Maybe. But I do think if you give them that freedom, it does come.
Yes.
It does come. So, yeah, I think there's so much that performing offers. Not just LAMDA, you know, exclusively, but any type of performing. It can really give children and students and young people that ability to story tell and role play and improvise and put themselves in a whole different world. That's what's exciting about it all, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think you've answered my next question, which was going to be the balance of technique with keeping it natural and truthful. I think you've said there that's where the natural and the truth comes. Is there anything to add to that? Tips for these young people as to how to make their performance natural and truthful, other than everything you've just given us?
I do think you have to be in the moment. I do think you have to be thinking not what the lines are or what the person watching you might be thinking, but you need to bring that story to life and really enjoy it. Yes. And obviously all of the technique that you master along the way. But a piece I've done recently with a student on the wind in the willows. You know the monologue when little Mole is lost in the wild wood and he's all frightened and alone and he's looking for Ratty. That's a great piece for a younger student that I've worked on recently where, you know, we'd improvise the noises in the wild wood and the darkness and what it feels like to be lost and frightened and alone and your person that's always there for you isn't there. And it's only when you explore all of that can you really portray this character in a way that's honest, and that he is really frightened and lost and alone, and all of these noises and things that are affecting him. And I think that's where truth comes from. Being there and experiencing and creating that imagination that you can bring to life. Yeah. Just an example of that.
That's
anyway.
A lovely example. We have quite a few momagers, as I call it, or as they call themselves, sort of these mum managers that are helping and
what
training.
Do you call them?
Momagers, like mum managers, because perhaps the child hasn't got an agent yet, or perhaps they're working alongside the agent and they are submitting them for open casting calls and that sort of thing. So I'm thinking that that's a really good tip for them. If they can help their child play and imagine and open up, whether they're having LAMDA exams or not, if those... and they don't have to be mums. They can be any parent, of course, or anyone guiding and helping a young person with their acting tapes, that if they can just perhaps improvise with them or give them those starting points to really tap into the surroundings, that, the time that it is. Yeah. Is it late at night and scary? What's going on? If they can help do that, I think that's a marvelous tip. Thank you for that, Jules. I like that. So with the young ones just starting out, wherever that may be, because you could be coming to this at any age, but they could be really tiny, or they could be, I think mine started when she was about 8, showing a real interest in acting. What would you suggest they focus on first?
Do you mean in the capacity of learning, or just exploring and being curious? In which
probably both, because I think they need a bit of both. But yes, some are going, we need an agent straight away, and I've made a whole solo episode on that. Perhaps they don't. Maybe they're coming to you for a LAMDA session, or maybe they're not ready to yet for whatever reason, or they're thinking about it. What advice would you give them as to sort of where to start?
I would say be a sponge and soak up as much as you can. So if you're a parent and you see in your child the young performer, as I was, doing shows in the living room when aunts and uncles come round, which is apparently what I used to do, much to everybody's amusement. If you see that interest and that love for performing growing in your child, let them absorb, let them learn, take them to the theatre. And look, we all know how expensive it is to go to the theatre these days, particularly in the West End.
Yes.
It's probably out of reach for many, but there's lots of alternatives to the West End, isn't there?
There are. Yeah, absolutely. Look at what's on your local theatre. And also, yes, it's brilliant to be wowed by these fantastic pieces, but pretty much every bit of theatre you see, you can talk about, you want your child to be interested by it, but there's so much to learn. Yes, there's so much out there. And also, there's some brilliant Amdram. There are groups that will put on these West End shows brilliantly. My daughters belong to one of them, and every year it's all singing, all dancing, fantastic facilities, and for a fraction of the cost. I remember going to their Matilda before the girls joined and went, well, that's ticked off then. I don't need to splash out on taking you to that one in London, because I feel like you've got something close. You've got a good, decent rendition of that one, and we'll go and see something else instead. Yes, look around, or get I don't know, the school drama teacher's advice maybe on what's on, or just look for yourself at what's on. Taking them to theatre.
There's lots of schools that put on shows.
With school productions.
With school productions with their with their children, with their GCSE groups or their A-level groups. So I would say anyone starting out, go to the theatre, read plays. Yes. It frustrates me that young actors are not reading plays. And they'll say, but I watch Netflix.
Enough.
Great. Watch Netflix, but read plays as well. Find the actors that excite you and you love their work. watch
Yes.
them in everything that they're doing. And I think, learn as much as you can, watch, observe, and whatever works for you, whichever route works for you. It might be stage school, it might be the big production type drama groups, it might be LAMDA, it might be eventually drama school. Of course, lots of young people are doing drama GCSE and A levels and theatre studies, BTECs. So whichever your route is, just be that sponge and absorb as much learning as possible, because we do all learn from other people, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could go back and read more plays as a child. I didn't love reading as a dyslexic, but turns out I quite like reading plays. And I think that's because they interest me and the way they're broken down. But if someone had introduced me earlier, I could have got a whole lot more under my belt. I think reading plays, because they don't have to be super long. There's so much out there. Read plays, definitely. And you can get screenplays. You could watch your favourite bit of Netflix and get hold of the screenplay and follow it and look at how it's been translated for screen. That could be a really interesting exercise if you really do want to watch telly. That could sort of bring it in a little bit there.
Yeah, and for parents, their children are reading more as well. So that's an added bonus, isn't it?
Win-win.
Yeah.
School will be pleased. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was my next question.
Absolutely.
What makes students really progress? So I think we're saying soaking up, being that sponge, reading plays. Is there anything else that really helps a student progress?
Well, I mean, in terms of LAMDA, you've got progressive learning, you've got structured graded exams and a process that you can go through that does become more challenging as you move up the grades. So I think that's a good thing. I think learning about different time periods in theatre is really important. Who goes to drama school and doesn't do a Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Or doesn't do a restoration comedy? Learn about different time periods in theatre and how different the world was in different periods of theatre. Learning about theatre practitioners, I do think that's important. I know a lot of actors don't think that, but
don't they? Most of the ones I've met love a practitioner. Oh, that's interesting.
Really? Yeah, I do love a bit of method acting, and I think that all comes from your knowledge of theatre practitioners, and there's so many more now than there were perhaps when I was first starting out. I think learning through others, observing, and maybe even going back in time, maybe. LAMDA grade 6, you as you probably know, you get to pick from different time periods, and a lot of my students pick the time period up to 1969 or 1970, that middle period.
Yes, I've got you.
And that's so interesting to delve into a play where the world was completely different to the world that students live in now.
Yeah.
Where there was no technology and there was no Netflix, and there's great learning in that, I think. Looking at the world not only through a different pair of eyes, but when the world was completely different.
Yeah. So much to learn, and that comes in their knowledge and their questions as well, doesn't it? Obviously you learn it along the way with the style of the piece, but they then from those medal grades get questioned a little on it as well. So that's another level of learning, to be able to perform and then also to be able to be yourself and answer those questions, I think is a great skill to have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's come back to our parents who are listening. How can they best support their child through this type of training, the LAMDA and the everything else that they're doing? How can they support them?
I think they can do quite a lot. I think they can support them, helping them learn lines, and they take the script and kind of give them a little bit of a test on the lines.
Don't give that to your LAMDA teacher. This used to frustrate me so much. I'd say to the students, this is such a waste of your parents' money. me helping you learn your lines. Of course I will help you.
Yes.
But if you can nail that yourself with your parents or somebody else,
Yes.
you're getting so much more value out of me that used to happily frustrate me. I'm like, of course I'll sit here and learn your lines with you, sweetheart. But if I was your parent, I would rather that you were getting more. So yes, please learn your lines with you. With your kids.
Yeah, help them to learn lines and ask questions, be interested, praise them. Yes. I think probably the biggest thing is that your children will feed off of your energy. So if you're stressed about their exam,
about this a lot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
So
tell me this. Yes.
It's a bit like your dog. If you're stressed or nervous around your dog will feed off your energy, and your children are the same. With parents, you need to be calm and positive and not fixate on the exam result or the result of the casting,
of the audition,
the result of the audition.
You're speaking
it's
my
not
language,
everything.
Jules.
Yeah, it's not everything. You never want to show your child you're disappointed that they didn't get that distinction or they didn't get that part. You want to reassure them and say, you did your best, and that's. I'm not talking wrapping them up in cotton wool and being unrealistic, but definitely you want it to be positive and calm, and no stress.
Agree.
No stress. Stress is such a destructive emotion for us, let alone for children. You know.
There's enough of it. We definitely don't need any more. And you're so right. They feed off your emotions. And I'm not saying brush it off either, because that can be harmful. Obviously, acknowledge that the child feels disappointed if they have not got the result that they wanted. But yes, help them sort of bounce back and come through and be positive, because they've done a huge thing. To learn all of that, to step into the room, to deliver it is incredible alone, without even worrying about the result. And like you said, the same for castings. To do that audition is a great achievement and should be celebrated regardless, always. Yes.
And it's a fact, confident kids are resilient and they bounce back. So the more confident they are, the more they will strive harder and better to get to where they want to be, instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm going to give up. So all of this confidence that we're building in children and young people and young actors is the driving force that makes them go back and work harder and be more determined. Absolutely. Because when you're confident, you can be more resilient and you can strive for that harder, can't you?
And it's going to help them in adulthood as well, to learn these skills, to have that resilience. Wonderful. So what should parents be looking for then in a good teacher or a good class?
In LAMDA or in general?
Ooh, it's up to you. I've seen classes differ wide. Talk about LAMDA to start with then, and then perhaps we'll widen it afterwards if we'd like.
So I would say some form of formal training, I think, is important. So whether that's drama school or teacher training or something, some formal qualification, I think, is good. Obviously, when it comes to LAMDA, you want someone who's really experienced with the syllabus and knows the assessment criteria, the learning objectives. I would say someone that really connects with your child, especially on a one-to-one, because one-to-one learning is quite exposing. Some children don't cope with it very well, and others, really thrive in the one-to-one. So someone that you can see is really, really championing your child and really giving them that ability to feel safe and experiment and explore, and that they have fun. Got to be fun. The classes have to be fun, and the teacher has to be fun. And that teacher should. I would probably say maybe avoid the jobbing actor that is teaching LAMDA, because they will often disappear on a job. And then where does
point.
that leave your child? They need that
Good point.
consistency with LAMDA.
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
say probably avoid the jobbing actor.
But do you know what?
teacher.
They'd be great for ad hoc lessons.
Yes.
Especially if you need help with a self-tape or, and then you've got that booked. I think there's a place for it. But also jobbing actors need other jobs. And
Yes.
there could be some very dedicated ones listening who run LAMDA, run it well and rework their lessons where needed. But there's always backups. There's other coaches out there. There's me. If your jobbing actors let you down, I'll do you an ad hoc session and pick you up. So
and I do
get
think
your
that
point. You want
I do think that jobbing
reliable.
actor would give the student maybe something different or more unique or
I
more
think so.
exciting. So
Yes.
I'm not against the jobbing actor teaching. Just LAMDA
It's
is
finding what's
that
right.
it's that regular every week to the
Yes.
exam experience, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know several students that have a LAMDA teacher and then will come to me for a bit of a top-up, perhaps fortnightly or monthly, and they'll say, these are my pieces, Lisa, and can we jazz them up? Or we'll do some practitioner work because they're really organised, or we'll do a deep dive into the questions. And their parents are loving that. Luckily, whenever this has happened, myself and the other teacher have always been in line. I'll say to the students, do they say this? Or they take this back, and it's worked really, really well. But I would imagine it could get tricky if the teachers had wildly differing views. But again, when you connect with the child and when you know your stuff, it can work really, really well. And then I guess you've always got a backup and a little bit. The parents that can afford to do that, it's great.
Yeah, and that is, I'm guessing, a really good experience for that student because if they go on to drama school, you're going to experience different teachers, different styles of teaching. So that's really building up that capacity to be able to just go to different teachers and cope really well with that.
So let's talk from your experience there. We might as well drop in the idea of if a parent, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but if a parent's looking for a class, maybe a drama class, an acting class, one of these or singing or dancing classes, what sort of thing should they be looking for in that?
So obviously the basic things, that the teachers check out, that they're police checked and things like that, just for a safeguarding thing. I think that is important. I think probably that there's good learning within what they're doing. So even though they're having fun and they're putting on big shows or they're having that performing experience, that they're still learning their craft. I think that's important. That they're forging good friendships with the other members of the group.
Yes.
And that ultimately they're feeling like they're getting value for money. So if that's a happy child, if that's an amazing big production, if that's performing in the local theatre or West End even. I know some of the groups now go to the West End and some go to Disney.
Yes.
I just think, because I think that you can see as a parent if your child is enjoying it and enthusiastic. I think that all of those things are important, but you want to see that the people that are running the drama group are, I suppose, giving variety and exploring lots of skills and teaching them as much as they can in the group situation, because I'm now doing the one-to-one, so it is different.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that if the child can have that group setting and a one-to-one, if that is financially viable, I think that is absolutely brilliant. And like I said, some you could stagger. Generally, you'd have LAMDA once a week and you'd have your performing arts once a week. So if that is something that you can do, brilliant. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world. Just like we said, there is so much that the child can soak up, even in daily life. Just popping out and observing people can be absolute gold, I think, for actors. Right. So, unless there's anything you want to add, Jules, I'd love to go into your quick fire questions.
Oh, quick fire. Okay.
Okay.
Quick fire me. Go for it.
So it doesn't matter if it's already come up in the episode, and it also doesn't matter if it's something that just pops into your head that we haven't said yet. Okay, so question number 1. One thing that stands out instantly to you in a young performer.
I think their thirst for learning.
Ooh,
being
nice.
just wanting to learn and wanting to develop and grow.
Love it. A common mistake in acting exams or auditions.
Recital mode because of nerves. Yeah. Not thinking in the moment, just I've got my lines, I'm going to say them. Definitely
that's a good one.
The most common. Yeah.
I agree. One thing you wish parents knew.
I think that your child will feed off of your own energies. So the more positive, the more upbeat it is, the better the experience. Yeah.
And one piece of advice for someone who's just starting out.
So I've just done a TikTok on this. It didn't get many views, and I think I'm quite disappointed in that. But
tell us now.
Be really careful about what you post online. Because you are building a brand, you're building a reputation, and you want whatever you post, you don't ever want that to come back on you and haunt you. And we're in drama school audition season at the moment, right? And TikTok is full of young actors talking about their drama school experience. And some of them I've seen lately have been shocking.
Oh, really? So I've seen a lot of disappointment or celebration, but I haven't heard anything shocking. Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
And I do think that think long term. Think long term. Think about building your brand and your reputation. And as I said in my TikTok, ask yourself, if a casting director or an agent looked me up, would they find anything at all that might give them the wrong impression or the wrong judgment of me?
That's
because
really good
being
advice.
Professional, it is so important. You can be honest. You can be creative and quirky and but with a professional slant on it.
So any that are starting out at an age where they can use social media should be really careful about what they're putting out there. I absolutely agree. So before we finish, Jules, would you like to tell people where they can find you and your work?
Yes. So my website is lamdateacher.co.uk. And there's a whole bunch of information on there about my classes. I'm also fairly new to TikTok. I'm still finding my way in the TikTok world, but I'm at LAMDA.teacher, I think. And I'm also on Facebook. Jules Martin, actor / LAMDA teacher. Yeah, so that's where you can find me if you're interested in any LAMDA classes. So yes, that's me.
Awesome. I will link all of those in the show notes so that people can find them there as well. A big thank you, Jules, for such a clear and practical conversation. There's so much in that episode about how the right training can clearly support young performers, not just in their exams, but in building confidence and real usable skills. If you found this helpful, do feel free to share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to follow or subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you do have a moment to leave a quick review, it really helps more people find this podcast. You can find more support, resources and coaching through the links in my bio across all of my socials at The Drama Coach. And I'll be back very soon with another episode of The Drama Coach podcast. Thank you so much for listening.